So we start off with just asking the question, what's cultural competence? It's the ability to understand, appreciate, and interact with people, cultures, or belief systems different from one's own. Essentially seeing and valuing diversity. Now, going back to what I was saying earlier about the trolls that were on social media, the ironic thing about it is because, they're probably community members, possibly Western New Yorkers, so they probably like the Bills. So they watch Josh Allen every week throw footballs to black athletes, right? And unless you are living a diet like pilgrims, I'm sure the type of cultural diversity and food that we have access to here in Western New York, I'm sure that they might go to Taco Tuesdays, right? Or they might experience some of the other different type of cuisines that we offer here in this community. So a person with that attitude is literally immersed in cultural diversity. The competent aspect of it, I don't know, that's still up for debate. But a lot of times people may have certain attitudes about things and be disconnected from things that they're literally immersed in simultaneously. Next. So what is diversity? So what is diversity? Differences in racial and ethnic, socioeconomic, geographic, academic, blah, 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 variety. Right? Okay. So you go on to the next slide. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the history of credit card machines. Was anybody around when those credit card machines? No, you ain't got to show your hand. Just wink at me. 1959. That's what the original credit card machines look like. That's the cardholder's name, and you would basically slide it across. And this is for the younger people here. Slide it across to put an impression on some carbon paper, and they would keep the slips as a record. Right? Next slide. 1970, it changed a little bit because now the cards added a magnetic strip. And also in 1979, the first electronic machine was launched by Visa. And this also was the year that MasterCharge became MasterCard, and credit cards were replaced to include that magnetic strip. 1980s to the present, you started to see the development of stationary landline credit card machines and portable wireless credit card machines. And that's a tremendous growth in terms of technology in that short period of time, right? Next. So now, I want you to tell me, what do you notice that's similar about all of these different inventions? What's something that you notice that's similar? What'd you say? Okay, they have numbers. Anybody else? Buttons. Yep. Anybody else? Definitely. Money. They're all connected to money in some form or fashion. Yes, they all use cards. You can go to the next slide. Okay, press it again. They're all right-handed dominant. All of them, right? You could go back. All of those inventions were created with right-handed dominant people in mind. By show of hands, how many people are left-handed in this room? These were not made for y'all. Right? It was a right-handed dominant person. So even when you look at all of these other different types of inventions, right-handed dominant. I mean, just a few short years ago, Oreos came out with a pack of cookies with a green lift tab label that was made specific for left-handed people. Seriously, right? You look at these joysticks for video games, rulers, all of these objects are just some of the different examples of things that are created with right-handed dominant people in mind. Now, that's something that most people really don't pay attention to unless you're left-handed. You know this every single day and you're constantly aware of it. And you have to deal with us right-handed dominant people who really don't care too much about what you think. Right? Next slide. Now, I point that out because a lot of times when you think about a right-handed dominant status quo, a lot of times people who are not right-handed are not even included into that equation at all, or consideration is never even really given for that segment of our families, right? Our community members, our citizenry. If you look at this picture right here, what do you think is missing? Because I'm sure that the people that created this image and this ad, they had the best of intentions to express diversity. Who's missing? Exactly. You don't see a person that would be considered disabled in this picture. The first thing I notice, I don't see me, right? But again, somebody may have had the best of intentions to say, oh, we're going to make this as diverse as possible, but it still misses the mark, right? With the best of intentions. Next slide, please. Now check this one out. What do you notice here? You probably came in here this morning not even expecting to answer no questions, huh? You just gonna sit here like this. What's missing? You said one handicap spot? Okay, what else? Anything else that you've noticed? Now, my community in Niagara Falls, we had a similar, it wasn't a dual business like this, but it was a dollar store, just like on our main street. And this is how I became aware of what I'm going to show you with this. Usually I'm driving down Main Street all of the time, and I would see a person in a wheelchair sitting out in front of the dollar store. And I was just thinking, assuming, and we all know what the root word of assume is. I'm just thinking that they're just panhandling all of the time. And I'm like, wow, they're really panhandling, because there would be times I would drive by, it's raining, it's snowing, and there's somebody sitting out there in a wheelchair, right? One day I happened to pull up to go into the store, and there's a person sitting outside in a wheelchair. I walk up to the store, and I'm practicing not looking at them, because I know if I look at them, they're going, okay, you see me, right? And they're going to ask for some money, right? So I'm walking by, and as I walk by, I say, excuse me, could you hold the door open for me? I've been waiting for somebody to pull up so that they could open the door for me. What? All of this time. That was the reason that people in wheelchairs were sitting out in front of the store, because it was not handicap accessible. So when you look at those doors, those are not automatic doors, right? And that's exactly how it was in my community. The person that set that business up there, they didn't have nobody that was in a wheelchair sitting at that table, or to give them some insight and input to say, you know, this is something that you should make sure that you include, right? When you look at this, it's the exact same way. It doesn't even have shelter from any of the elements. So if a person's sitting in a wheelchair there and they come and pull up, you know, whatever, if it's raining or snowing, they're going to have to sit there until somebody pulls up and opens the door for them, right? Now, I would have never recognized something like this unless I had that experience. So now, because I have that knowledge, I can make wiser decisions when it comes to advocacy for our family members, our community members, our citizenry that have those type of concerns that are important to include in the decisions that we make, right? Next slide. And now we have also blatant examples of advertisements and things that are put out in the public where you know that they had no consideration for certain segments of our family, our community, and our citizenry, right? You see this one way at the top. It says coolest monkey in the jungle. I don't know who made that. I don't know who would make an ad like that, right? And then you look at this other dove one, and you can see what that's telling you. And then the one below it, the perfect body. And these are just some examples of just a lack of consideration, you know, on various different levels. You know, some things are blatantly racist like this. And then there's sometimes people who are just thinking from a right-handed dominant perspective. They just did not consider others. And I would say that, you know, you have your segment of the population here that are advocates of white supremacy and racism, and they believe that in their heart. But I would say the majority of people are usually just ignorant because for the most part, they're not exposed to the sense of cultural competence that's necessary in order to elevate the mindset of people to really be connected with a sense of global citizenry. And I say global citizenry because how many people travel to other countries? When you go to other countries and people find out you're from America, a lot of times their attitude is like, oh my goodness, I feel so bad for you. You know, that's a lot of the times the attitude. And here in America, people typically speak one language. You go to other countries, minimally, people speak two languages. That's minimally, right?